United Airlines issued a nationwide ground stop for all their flights due to what they called an equipment outage. Yeah, are you guys believing this? Check this out.
And following up on the breaking news from just a moment ago that the United Airlines has requested the FAA issue a nationwide ground stop on all flights, including their United Express regional carriers, due to what they are describing as equipment outages. That ground stop was requested till 2 p.m. Eastern time. So that's about another 34 minutes left in that. That can have a big impact on a lot of flights. Joining us now by phone is Dennis Tager, American Airlines pilot. Dennis, there seems to be a growing number of issues like this. This happens to be on the Tuesday following the long holiday weekend where a lot of folks are taking to the skies. It'll likely affect a lot of people. But what is your thoughts on what we know so far about this?
Well, it's not good news. Clearly, I'm a spokesman for the Pilot Union at American, but I'm digging in feverishly to find out how this might impact American. United asking for a ground stop is basically saying they need a timeout. And we get that if the FAA has their own equipment failures. I'm not sure the details. Anytime that you have a well-oiled machine rolling along, any delay in that can really gum up the works.
Now, this was honestly new from just a few days ago, but hear me out, guys. Something similar in the UK just last week when an air traffic control experienced a technical issue. Not sure if they have yet explained exactly what the technical issue was, though. So yeah, stepping back, it's kind of making me see a pattern in this big picture. You know what I mean, right? So let's take a closer look at this whole thing. So yeah, if you had a flight with United Airlines a few days ago, you may have heard about this. United Airlines asked the Federal Aviation Administration to ground all of its flights for around 40 minutes in the United States due to equipment failure. They called it a system-wide technology issue, so they had to hold all aircraft at the departure airports. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, he posted a message about it and directed those affected to a website where they can access resources on airlines' obligations to customers. Flightrights.gov, just in case you guys want to keep that in your back pocket the next time you fly. And here's something very interesting. Representative Eric Swalwell, who, by the way, is the top Democrat on the House Cyber Subcommittee, he was actually on a United flight as the news broke out. And apparently he was on a cross-country United plane and said he was going to get more information to his constituents on this ground stop and whether it reflects a cyber threat. And really, I don't know if you guys noticed this too, but airline reliability is becoming increasingly concerning for travelers as outages and widespread cancellations are becoming more and more common. You guys remember back in January, of course, right? The FAA experienced a catastrophic system failure that canceled and delayed hundreds of flights across the country. Now, whenever I hear about anything like this, my first thought is whether or not, it was a hacking issue. But what do you guys think? Was it hackers? Was it something else? In fact, I found out that they issued a warning about this in Aviation Week's MRO Americas conference in Atlanta. Now, according to Boeing, occurrences of ransomware inside the aviation supply chain are up 600% in just 1 year, an indicator of escalating cybersecurity risks that the industry is facing. And this is why they're starting to account for the extended ecosystem of connectivity that we're seeing in modern air travel. As they explained, increasing requests for sensors on almost every working part of the aircraft makes it even more efficient, but it also makes it more vulnerable because everything that sends or receives a signal could potentially get hacked. Now, aside from the evolution of digital connectivity, there's also worry about a governmental decision to designate aerospace and aviation as critical infrastructure. This is also raising risk. American Airlines said it almost paints a target on the airspace back for threat actors to want to take advantage of that critical infrastructure. And according to them, it is growing. From a threat landscape perspective, we're seeing more and more cyber attacks trying to penetrate into this critical infrastructure that we call aviation. I mean, I don't want to remind anybody about what happened on 9/11, but this is seriously giving me that vibe. Stay safe out there, you guys. By the way, for the very best way to invest in gold or silver, check out the links in the description down below of this video. Now, just think about this and consider the current global landscape that we're in right now. Basically, there's a lot of things around the world that are motivating folks to attack the aviation industry. They mentioned hacktivists, people who essentially do some kind of cyber activity with the sense of supporting a particular political agenda. They even warn that without a doubt, the threat side of this equation is increasing. The terms of where the largest threat lies, the industry panel looked more to the supporting ecosystem rather than the airframe itself. Risk prioritization is key, along with ensuring that suppliers are thinking about cybersecurity. Because for some airlines with contracts that are a decade old or more, stipulations on cybersecurity may not exist. United has upwards of 30,000 suppliers. Very easy to target any one of these for a cyber attack. And that's why they're evaluating all their third parties, enhancing their contracts, adding terms around the need to drive cybersecurity into the supply base. The problem is that these people are afraid to expose their own weaknesses that they may have. And one of the things that the attackers do way better than the industry does today is they share. I mean, rather than trying to keep problems like this under wraps and call it an equipment outage or technical difficulties, you know what I mean? Sharing information is something that we do right here in our YouTube fam. Share any insider information or boots on the ground intel in the comment section or email me directly. I share with our Financial Freedom fam on the air. I mean, before striving for financial freedom, you got to make sure that you and your family are safe and secure, right? So yeah, make sure to keep sharing that information, guys. And if you guys haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel for more updates. Turn on that notification bell, that way you guys do not miss anything. And last but not least, give this video a like so that more people can find it. All right, all good? Appreciate you guys. But let's go ahead and continue. Now, on a federal level, the TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, they said it plans to issue new cybersecurity requirements for some key aviation systems after several U.S. airport websites were hit with apparently coordinated denial of service attacks. Now, apparently these cyber attacks were alleged organized by pro-Russian hackers, but supposedly did not disrupt airport operations or access to information. So now the TSA updated its aviation security programs to require airport and airline operators to designate a cybersecurity coordinator and report cybersecurity incidents, conduct a cybersecurity assessment, and develop remediation measures and incident response plans. They also have plans to soon issue additional performance-based cybersecurity requirements for critical aviation systems. The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, they also said in a notice to airports that they must demonstrate efforts to consider and address physical and cybersecurity risks that are relevant to the transportation mode and type of scale of the project. So basically all these government offices covering their bottoms so that when we do get attacked, they don't get blamed. And as early as 2020, the Government Accountability Office in a 2020 report said that the FAA should fully implement key practices to address cybersecurity risks. They pointed out how modern airplanes are equipped with networks and systems that share data with the pilots, the passengers, maintenance crews, other aircraft, and air traffic controllers. If not properly protected, could be a risk of a variety of potential cyber attacks. I mean, an equipment outage, a technical difficulty, exactly the same thing happened in the UK on one of the busiest travel days last summer, bank holiday. Do you think it's a coincidence? Maybe not. Maybe they don't want regular folks traveling. Maybe they want to keep them trapped in 15-minute cities for all I know. People behind the scenes are going to continue to make movement as difficult as possible for the common folk. Maybe I'd rather just drive at this point. I don't know if you guys noticed this too, but every single holiday, this kind of travel holdup has been happening now for the past few years. What do you say, guys? Western intelligence agencies, together with Microsoft, are also warning about the largest known cyber espionage campaigns that are hitting companies running critical U.S. infrastructure. Microsoft analysts say the group, which it is calling Volt Typhoon, appears to be developing capabilities to allow it to disrupt critical U.S.-Asia communications infrastructure that would be used in the event of a crisis. Now, this group could very well also trigger cyber attacks against oil and gas pipelines and rail systems. Hospitals have also become a top target for ransomware gangs, which can take control of vulnerable online networks and demand a ransom to unlock them. The number of attacks on U.S. hospitals each year doubled between 2016 and 2021, from 43 to 91. Last year, we saw an even greater number of incidents. I guess once they realized that these hospitals were going to pay up, they saw the financial opportunity, pretty much just kept hitting them. I mean, these are direct threats to patient safety that we're talking about here. Internet-based tools critical to patient care, which can include patient health records, imaging and lab results, communication links with other departments and hospitals, and more. They're suddenly frozen. It even got to a point where hospitals experiencing a ransomware attack hit a stress level linked to more patient deaths. So I can totally imagine hospitals are all too eager to get their systems back if they get attacked. And cyber attacks, they don't just affect an individual hospital that's hit with the ransomware. Newly published research showed a ripple effect that can impact healthcare and the patient experiences across an entire region. The study looked at the fallout from a single ransomware attack on a single San Diego hospital back in 2021. It found that the emergency rooms at adjacent hospitals had even more ambulances arrive and saw more patients than normal. And they also had longer wait times for all patients that were seeking care. The number of situations where a patient left without being seen by a doctor, it rose to 127%. And as they explained, patients don't stop getting sick just because a hospital is getting hit by a cyber ransomware attack. They have to go somewhere. So what this research shows is that those patients, they go to neighboring hospitals that can be overwhelmed. So you can see it truly affects the entire community. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services concluded in April that cyber attacks are the single largest threat to American hospitals, deserving immediate attention because of the threat to life. Now, another potential point of weakness in the U.S. our energy grid. Protecting critical infrastructure, and especially the U.S. energy grid, is certainly a topic that keeps the United States Department of Homeland Security, the U.S. Department of Energy, the U.S. Department of Defense, and the U.S. intelligence community planners up at night. The threats can be from cybersecurity attacks by countries, criminal gangs, or hacktivists, from physical attacks by terrorists, domestic or foreign, and vandals on utilities or power plants, or from an electronic magnetic pulse, an EMP, which is generated from a geomagnetic solar flare, or from a terrorist short-range missile exploding in the atmosphere. To put it simply, the aging U.S. energy grid infrastructure is extremely vulnerable to cyber attacks, physical incidents, and existential threats. In fact, 70% of transmission lines are at least 30 years old and they're approaching the end of their life cycle, and 60% of their circuit breakers are more than 35 years old compared to useful lives of 20 years. Now, these aging grids, they drive $51 billion in annual utility distribution spending. Plus, the new reality is that most of the U.S. energy grid critical infrastructure components operate in a digital environment that is internet accessible, aka hackable. All these AI trends and integration of hardware and software plus network sensors, they're redefining the surface attack opportunities for hackers. The General Accounting Office, they've also explicitly stated that the US energy grid is vulnerable to cyber attacks. The GAO also notes that the grid distribution systems, which carry electricity from transmission systems to consumers, they've grown more vulnerable in part because of their operational technology increasingly allows remote access and connections to business networks. And so this could allow threat actors to access those systems and potentially disrupt operations. As if cyber attacks were not enough of a security concern, physical attacks by domestic terrorists on the U.S. energy grid are an increasing threat. Now, based on the data from the DOE, physical attacks on the grid rose 77% in 2022. Now, the problem is that substations make easy, soft targets, and there are more than 55,000 that are connected to the grid in the United States. So as you guys can see, there's a lot of opportunities for cyber attacks on the US. So, whenever I hear something like a nationwide plane ground stop, I have to share with you guys so that we can all stay safe and keep watch. You know what I'm saying? Hey guys, if you made it this far in the video, drop a quick like, also subscribe to the channel, and I'm gonna see you guys on the next one.